Hello and welcome to a milestone episode 250 of the Random Nintendo podcast. I'm Jason.
I'm Angel.
Episode 250, yeah!
What Pokemon is that?
It's a good question.
It has to be the end of Gen
Also,
2,
that was
right?
Kevin, who just like faded
Mewtwo
himself
plus
out.
100.
No, oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, well, 251 Celebi. I know that.
Oh, damn. So who comes before? Probably Entei or Ho-Oh or... No, it's Ho-Oh or Lugia.
Oh, it's Ho-Oh. I think it's Ho-Oh then. I think Lugia's 249. Yeah, it's Ho-Oh. So welcome to the Ho-Oh episode. The milestone Ho-Oh episode.
Wait, Johto only added 100 Pokemon?
No,
I thought they always added 150.
No, it added 100.
No, yeah, just 100.
Which is funny because whenever I hear 250, like honestly, I think of Pokemon Gold and Silver. I don't think of I don't know why. Like Pokemon's at 930 now, 932, something like that. But I always think of when I hear 250, oh, that's the number of Pokemon, which is not accurate anymore. But I don't know why that is. Maybe because Gold and Silver are the best games in the series. But
no, thinking of it as the Ho-Oh episode does make it feel just a little more important.
A little more special. I mean,
yeah,
it's projected in the very first episode that we get to 250 when Ho-Oh flew over us as we were talking. So here we are. Just like in the cartoon. But anyway, yeah, it's for a milestone episode. It's actually a pretty typical episode. We're going to be sharing impressions of the newest Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighter, or Fighters, plural. It's Pyra and Mythra with kind of 2 in 1, along with the Switch version of EA's free-to-play Apex Legends. It's basically swords versus guns. Do you want the characters are swords that come to life? Do you want guns in Apex? Hence our episode title of Choose Your Weapon. And then on the news side, really it wouldn't be it's a significant milestone episode if we didn't have 2 running tropes of our show up. Number 1 is reports of an upcoming system revision. 4K Switch is almost finally real. And a glance at some MPD sales numbers, among other stuff. So, should be a good episode. There's timestamps for all that on the blog post. There's also, actually, for folks listening at home, something else important about this episode is if you stay tuned to the end, 250 milestone means we're doing a giveaway of a $25 eShop gift code, credit, whatever you want to call it. We're only doing 25 because I don't think either of us wanted to spend, or any of the 3 of us wanted to spend $250, so we shaved off the 0 for our own sakes. But if you stay tuned to the end of the show, we'll tell you how you can get that gift card code thing for $25, which is perfect to say buy the Fighters Pass. That includes Pyra and Mythra in Smash Bros. Which brings us to our first topic, I guess, which is Pyra and Mythra in Smash Bros. They were first announced in last month's Nintendo Direct, right? But it was such a packed presentation that we decided to save all our thoughts on them for this episode. So since it's, it's what we've been playing is these characters, they're now out for everyone to try. But before we even get to that, right off the bat, what do you guys think of them being included in the Fighters Pass? What was your initial gut reaction to some Xenoblade folks showing up as the next big DLC for Smash?
Gut reaction? Immediately in the trailer, just pure honesty, not trying to sugarcoat it with happy for people that got it. I think I was just oh man. Not but that's just because, I want to be shocked and excited. That's just my new thing. I just want to be shocked. Even if I don't necessarily want to play as the character. But as soon as that moment passed, I'm still I think it was more because I felt this character, they've already alluded to wanting to having wanted to put a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 character in the game. So it just felt like an expected one. It just didn't feel like an exciting pick. As much as I know, this will actually make a lot of people happy. And the characters themselves, they're interesting-ish. I'll get to why that ish later, but yeah, I don't know. Nintendo character picks for Smash Bros. Characters just don't get me excited anymore.
It just feels too safe to you, or what?
Yeah, it felt safe. It just didn't feel like. It just wasn't I never played Final Fantasy VII. I wouldn't. I don't know. I would say I'm probably a bigger fan of the music than the game. I probably enjoy the game. The music I've heard more than being motivated to play the game itself. But when Sephiroth got announced, I was still whoa, he's actually in there. That's crazy. Just as a I can't believe they put him in there.
Did you say that out loud to no one when he was revealed? Did you just go whoa to an empty room?
I don't think I said it out loud, but I was definitely thinking all that. I was just like, I don't know. I just felt like he brought like a presence, and even Minecraft, like, I wasn't necessarily like, oh man, they better get Minecraft in here, but I was just like, oh wow, they actually did it. Like, those crazy people at Nintendo did it.
Those
but this one just felt like
whatever the meme is.
Yeah, this one just felt like yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
As Kevin, as someone that's like outside the Smash Bros. Like sphere somewhat, because you don't really play, did you have kind of that same like ho-hum reaction versus some of the other fighters that have been shown in the past?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Angel's sentiments where first-party characters don't really do the excitement for me, as opposed to like the fact that, oh, Nintendo went out of their way to get this third-party character. It definitely does seem a little easy.
Yeah.
But that's not Sakurai's fault. That's
Nintendo chose it. Yeah, I will say.
It's funny because...
Or go ahead, Angel.
And I blame Joker for all this, just because, like...
Okay.
No, in a good way. Like,
you need to chill out, dog.
Because before Joker was announced, we had the... I guess in the core roster, were there any crazy third parties? I feel like, a lot of the big
ones were like... Snake was...
I mean, there's Snake, there was Sonic, there was Pac-Man, there was...
No, new. New to Ultimate.
Cloud was in Brawl as well.
I guess Simon and Richter are third party?
Yeah. The Castlevania duo.
I guess Ken. Like, some stuff in there, like there were also characters that were like long expected. And then when Joker got announced, that was like, that felt, as almost as far left field as like Steve did or other.
I would say further, because Persona didn't have that close of a... Like, the only Personas on Nintendo were spin-offs on the DS, basically, like Persona Q.
Yeah, because that one... Because even though I hadn't played Persona at that time, and I still haven't, although I would like to one day, like, that one for sure, like, it was just such a weird and crazy pick that I couldn't help but just be excited for the fact that he was in there, just because he's, like, from a completely different franchise that isn't really necessarily associated with Nintendo. And then, like, they kind of kept the train going. Like, Terry, I was also kind of obviously not as hyped about, but he just felt kind of cool. I'm like, all right, like, there's other fighters besides Street Fighter that got recognition. I mean, Banjo was Banjo. Even Hero, like, he's not the most, like, I guess, emotive or, like, exciting character-wise, like, personality-wise, but, like, what he brought to the table was just really interesting, I felt. I mean, he pretty much, like, brought Mario Party... like Tactics to Smash Brothers.
The random element, yeah.
Yeah, and then we got Byleth, and it was like, oh, like, yeah, just coming from like Joker to Banjo to Hero, it was just, ending with Byleth, and then it just feels like a Byleth reaction. Like, I don't hate Byleth being in the game, or necessarily another Fire Emblem character. It just felt unexciting, kind of like how Min Min was. Like, I like the idea that an ARMS character is in Smash Brothers, but. It's also because of the really slow trickle we have. If we had like and I know we've talked about this like that. For Nintendo, this is definitely like still better just because it'll still get a lot of attention, good or bad, whether a character is liked or not. But it would make the overall impression of each character feel a lot better for the most part if they just had one giant trailer, kind of like Mortal Kombat does, where like it starts with like the one I'm thinking of right now has like I was gonna call him Molecule Man. I think it's the Atom, like coming out of an exploding building that Raiden and some other dude were fighting in. That I guess were also like revealed as new. Like slowly one at a time, they're just getting revealed, but it's like one big CG trailer. And then the Atom gets attacked by I guess Enchantress, who I guess some people were like, oh, from Suicide Squad. It's like, oh, that's not that exciting. And then you get Ninja Turtles at the end out of nowhere. So you kind of get
Injustice. That wasn't Mortal Kombat.
I was about to say
I meant
the
to say just
Turtles
another
are
round people. Regardless, same developers, but yeah, that Injustice True trailer.
I remember
like
right after,
like if they had something like that, where like if they had Byleth like appearing, and then it's like okay, Byleth and fighting Min, it's like oh what Sephiroth, oh what Steve. I mean I don't know, but you also do get like the oh my god, who's going to be in this moment, but. Like in that second, it's like you're immediately excited or just like, okay, I guess who's the next one?
I think two things. One, I still remember I came over to record. I think it was just when you and I did the podcast, and I came over to record right after that Injustice trailer. I've never seen you so like shell shocked about something, no pun intended. But you were like floored by that Ninja Turtle reveal. Like you were just looping it when I walked in. I've never seen you react like that to anything. It was the most I've ever seen you excited about something. But to your point about the multi-trailer thing.
Yeah, it's one of the few times I've done an audible, like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Especially with my brother being there too. Like, we were both just like...
That's right, giddy.
This is crazy.
But
and, I proceeded never to play Injustice 2.
Yeah, that was the weird thing. But, and it was even on, like... Or no, that was Injustice 1 that was on the Wii U. Never mind. I don't think 2 made it. But,
yeah.
What I was going to say is, to your point about the trailers, I wonder if, like... Yes, there is some, like, rise and fall of, they have a hype cycle and it gets attention and it gets, attention on the games that are associated with it. But I do wonder if maybe, like, the third-party characters get revealed that are individual because it's more of a moment, and then the first-party characters, because it's less of a moment, can all just sort of be balled together. Like, maybe if they were to do a Fire Pass 3, the first half is all first-party characters, just guaranteed all first-party, and they do, like, a
literally
reveal trailer for 3 characters.
Just do that.
And then they just
front load all the
rest.
first-party,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Like, because imagine if it was, you have your Min and then Pyra/Mithra, and then, you're followed by Steve and then Sephiroth. I mean, yeah. But then, expectations are obviously going up. Like, and I just really hope there's 2 more third-party characters.
I will say...
Also, just gets more variety in music and whatnot. I don't really care who it is at this point. I think I just don't want first-party characters, which is
so funny because Smash was so long, like a first-party thing, and everyone was like, "Oh, we're gonna open up to gaming as a whole." That's weird. Like, there's a whole back and forth among fans of whether it should be Nintendo only,
honestly,
and now that isn't. It feels weird when they go back to the Nintendo well, like it like reversed.
Like, honestly, can't think of a franchise that's third-party that would make me go, oh, even if I don't necessarily like the franchise, just because it's a third party, and kind of to what Kevin said, like they had to like go out of their way to get it, like to make it work.
Yeah. There's no...
I mean, it could be freaking... I'm even trying to think of a franchise that... I guess there's nothing I really necessarily
Lara Croft.
Like.
I don't know.
If it's just Lara Croft, like, I think I maybe played part of the game when I was little, and I didn't even know at the time, so I have, like, no association with her. But, yeah, even that would be like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, where did that come from? I think that's... Yeah. I don't know.
I do think, like, we keep talking about how it's first party, but I do think one thing that's kind of noteworthy well, first of all, like, I was the same reaction. I was kind of, okay, whatever. But for fans of Xenoblade, like, the attention to detail is the same as it's always been with any of these characters. So that's kind of cool. Like, the way they bring in the side characters, the way Gramps is, like, the stage, but he's, like, looking at other parts of the Xenoblade world that are flying by. Like, they do that running joke about Rex not being a fighter, which I assume is something funny to Xenoblade fans. But what I thought was kind of cool, ignoring, the fans, is I've never seen a developer of a character be so excited about their character. Nintendo doesn't usually give them the chance, I guess. But, like, normally these partnerships happen. It's handed off to Sakurai and his team, Masahiro Sakurai, director of the game, and they handle everything, right? Like, they just take the reins and go. But we learned that fake out introduction video they did in the presentation in the Nintendo Direct was actually put together by the Xenoblade team at Monolith Soft. And then, like, the day it came out, like, Monolith Soft and all, like, they were, like, tweeting out, like, little animations of, like, Pyra with her Smash invite that they rendered. And, like, they were, like, that excitement was really cool to see. And it was kind of a little infectious because they were so excited to have their character, even though they're a Nintendo second party now, to have their character get into Smash. Like, that was kind of, like, I felt happy for them seeing all their tweets and all their, videos they were putting out and everything. So that was, it didn't make up for the initial, like, oh, okay, but it sort of was like, you know what, like, for a developer, even if you're internal at Nintendo in some capacity, like, what an honor to get your character to be, like, invited to Smash, even if it's for marketing purposes, Like, it really solidifies your IP as being, like, a big deal.
And for any of these characters that we're, like, ho-hum about, like, I definitely wouldn't wish they weren't in the game. Because, like, that's everybody's, like, every character is, like, someone's dream character.
Totally.
So, which is pretty awesome. It just, just want to be overall generally excited. And you're not going to hit that. I mean, there's so many RPG characters in this pass. Like,
yeah, but, in a weird way, what is kind of most interesting to me about Pyra/Mithra being included is almost what it signaled about where the Fire Pass is going to go next. Like, namely what won't be there, I think. Like, hear me out here. I'm going to kind of spin a yard. No, but there's... No, listen.
It's like every other person that says, like, oh, this character is here.
That's my point. No, that's my point.
And then turns out they're wrong.
That's what I'm getting at. So there's been this long time fan buzz. I wouldn't say rumors, kind of just wishes and expectations that Crash Bandicoot's going to come into the game. Which... does, on some level, make a lot of sense. You know, he's a gaming staple. He's been revived these last few years. And then he's sort of like, oh, he's a PlayStation guy. I think that nonsense kind of flew out the window when Cloud and Sephiroth both became part of Smash, independently of each other. But what I think Pyra and Mythra, what the release of them did, to me at least, is confirm that we are not going to get Crash. And that's because if you look at how Smash DLC is handled, it is kind of becoming more and more of, I mean, you were talking about, you know, like the rise and fall of the hype with each character. It's kind of becoming more of a marketing tool for other properties, right? Like we initially saw it with save data way back when the Ultimate first came out, and they're like, oh, if you have this other game, or if you buy this other game, we'll give you special spirits in the game, which is actually something that is now back in the update that Pyra and Myth were in. If you have Persona 5 Strikers save data, Kevin, if you have Ghosts and Goblins save data, you get special spirits of those characters from those games. And then we've seen them do it, you know, with past DLC fighter choices too. Like, you mentioned Steve from Minecraft. That happened weeks before Minecraft Dungeons got a huge second push and its season pass announced. Hero from Dragon Quest, which you also mentioned, you know, rolled out, I think, 8 weeks, 12 weeks before Dragon Quest XI S hit Switch. And even if you go back to like Corrin and, you know, when he came out, that was very explicitly said, oh, it's because Fire Emblem Fates is about a release. So, I mean, and not just that, actually, because even in the specific, now I think about it,
that's just some, though. I don't think it applies to all.
It doesn't necessarily apply to all, but even in, like, this specific Sakurai presents for Pyra and Mythra.
What was the reason for Sephiroth?
What?
I
mean, they're writing the...
Final Fantasy VII wasn't...
Final Fantasy VII was out earlier that year, and they announced the PS5 version about 2 months later. So they're right in the middle of that hype.
This kind of feels like reaching.
Maybe, but I guess what I'm saying is, like, even, like, it felt very apparent to me that they're going further into, like, oh, we do these things for marketing. I mean, Sakurai straight up said in the presentation, all the new Mii Fighter costumes, there's 3 Monster Hunter ones, there's Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins. They all are happening now because, hey, would you look at that? Ghosts and Goblins has an exclusive new Switch game, Resurrection. It's out right now. And hey, in like 3 weeks, Monster Hunter Rise is releasing. So look, we have costumes for it. Which, well, actually, Angel, you are a Monster, both of you, now that I think about it, are Monster Hunter fans. What do you think of them just getting Mii costumes? Is it doing the series justice? Would you want to see like an actual fighter in the vein of Monster Hunter?
Literally nothing to say, because, I mean, those costumes were already on the Wii U version.
So they're just recycling, essentially?
Yeah, so it's just like, oh, there they are. I thought they were already in the game, actually. I was kind of surprised that they weren't.
But do you think it...
Which is the case for a lot of the costumes recently.
Do you think it rules out any dedicated Monster Hunter fighter in the remainder of the pass?
I don't think so. But, you know, it's not going to stop anyone from thinking that it does. If a Monster Hunter character doesn't come in, it's going to be because they had the costume.
Right.
I think, I don't know, the costume's just in there. That's pretty much it. I mean, I love how the armor looks. I've always liked that costume because it covers the Mii face, so you don't have to deal with that. But it
you
does
designed
end up
the
having
Mii
like
face.
Kind of
You're making it sound like it's this awful thing you're stuck with. You can make it look like anything. Make it look like Zoidberg.
Yeah, but they still have that Mii aesthetic though. Like
sure.
I just like it when they end up just having like a full face mask that completely changes the model, like the Bomberman one, the Sans one, you know, or even like this helmet for that matter, or Cuphead. Like, yeah, like the Mii's are fine, but I kind of wish they were just full on like, you know, texture swaps or I guess model swaps most of the time. Like the K. Rool costume, I guess before we even had K. Rool or even like Geno, like why not just give him like a normal Geno head instead of being stuck with the Mii one? Or like I really hate those like Mii costume heads that are for specific characters like K. Rool, where it's just like a hat, but you can still see the Mii face. It's like just give him a full like, even if it has to look silly, like a theme park mascot face. Like I would still think
that would actually be pretty. That would actually be pretty cool.
But it's like, no, it has to be like a baseball cap of sorts.
Do you think, with that in mind, that when Super Nintendo World, so it's opening now March 18th in Japan, but do you think as it starts rolling out around the world, if they're still doing Smash DLC, they're going to do like theme park mascot costumes?
Probably not.
It'd be kind of cool. They could get that. They could get that weirdly rotund Toad.
I could see them doing a shirt or maybe like a giant glove hander. I don't know. They'll probably do something, but
because like for Sakurai and Co, it's an easy way to pad DLC without actually having to like reinvent. Like you can now have multiple Marios, and no one's going to question it because one's like theme park Mario.
I mean, I'm sure at some point we're still gonna get like the Tales of Symphonia Lloyd costume because we still don't have that on the Wii U. I mean, on the Switch. but that was on the Wii U. So who knows when that will drop by, but it wouldn't surprise me if we get that at some point. And I mean, that's a Bandai Namco property, so it's even more of a matter of time.
Right, yeah. But anyway, my point why I brought up the Mii's is if you go back...
Unless we get Lloyd.
That's
another sword fighter, but...
That's what I was thinking. Like, Lloyd would be super cool, but yeah, he's another sword fighter. I don't know how that would go... I don't know how well that would go down with the community.
It definitely wouldn't. Unless they, like, pick someone else from... Like, yeah, if they pick a Tales game, like, it would probably be... Like, Tales of Symphonia, and it would probably be Lloyd. But it does have 2 swords, which we don't have yet.
Yeah, true.
That's true.
But he also does use a lot of... But he also can use magic, too. So, I mean... But yeah, I mean, that's also just kind of getting back to, like, Myth and Pyro. Like, yeah, they use swords, but they also kind of do weird stuff with them. It's not just straight up... I guess it is straight up swordplay.
It isn't. But real quick, before we get to that, let me just finish my Crash point before I lose my thread there in my head. All I was going to say about Crash is the reason I rattled off the costumes and stuff is if you go look at Crash right now on Switch, he has a lot...
Just give me the Mii costume with, like, the little face hole.
See, that would work. Because,
like,
like, right now, like, I feel like they killed their momentum because Crash has it on Switch right now. Like, you know, they did the Crash Team Racing free trial at the start of the year for Switch Online. Crash 4, It's About Time, just launched on Switch this weekend. It lines up perfectly if they were like, oh, and here's Crash and Smash. And I'm not saying Crash won't necessarily happen, but...
Well, I mean, to your point earlier, none of them have lined up perfectly. They're like 6 months later.
No, usually they're earlier, is my point.
2 months earlier.
Yeah, so I mean, they could do it, and that's why I think it could potentially happen.
Also, you don't care how much time later as long as they beat them to the punch on putting the character in?
Wait, what?
So as long as the character is in Smash before whatever announcement or game related...
I'm saying that's what their pattern is. They more often, if there's a game involving that character, they more often get him in for the third parties ahead versus behind. And that doesn't mean it won't happen because he's iconic enough they could do it on his own. But I just feel like, given how much more savvy Nintendo's getting with the marketing tie-ins now, it feels like Xenoblade characters that could be dropped at any time being in the slot that could have been perfect for Crash may point to no Crash. But who knows? It's just a theory. But I do feel like it made me think something that seemed pretty plausible is a little less so now, essentially. And it's also worth knowing that it's not like Smash guarantees some big marketing success or big sales boost. I mean, Xenoblade right now is seeing one because of Pyra Murthra. Apparently in Japan, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has sold out. Here in the US, inventory of it's quite low in the States. But like you mentioned Min Min, Angel. If you look at Min Min, that didn't exactly light ARMS on fire again. And it certainly wasn't for lack of trying. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but they tied in Min Min with a new Global Test Punch demo weekend when she came out in Smash on Switch. And then they brought back in-game events in ARMS, and they did all this stuff. I think they even discounted the game by like $20 briefly. And yet, didn't really get much more traction, which, you know, is a bummer since, as we've talked about so many times before on the show, like ARMS had so much potential in its world building, but I guess the world just wasn't resonating with anyone. Even if it did sell a couple million copies, like in Nintendo E's, a couple million copies isn't enough. You need like tens of millions to move on. I mean, they just the other day got out that the ARMS graphic novel that upped and vanished by the one Dark Horse was doing has been all out canceled.
And that was supposed to expand on the lore.
Yeah,
what the heck?
Yeah, it's gone. I mean, Dark Horse themselves didn't outright say it's canceled, but the writer who wrote the preview for Free Comic Book Day where they first announced it put on his website that the comic has been scrapped. So, I don't know. I mean, at this point, I guess I can see ARMS like being like a punch out of sorts where like it pops up every few Nintendo generations for a little revival. Or I don't know. Like they kind of have stuff in common, right? I mean, obviously the punching, but you know, they're also like a colorful cast of characters. They're all themed around different things, big colorful art style. Kind of like you're learning their personality through their moves. Like there's some parallels. I could see them trying to do that. Although it does always seem like the games that Nintendo puts the most diverse world building into always are the ones that get backburnered first by Nintendo. Punch-Out, F-Zero, ARMS. I think maybe Splatoon's the one exception where it's actually been able to explore its lore fully and become really popular. Like, am I missing any? Those seem like the big three that Nintendo kind of put a lot of time into the world and just got nothing in return.
Not off the top of my head, but yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of a bummer about ARMS. But yeah, my point is, I feel like this diminished Crash a little. It doesn't necessarily mean it won't happen. It doesn't even mean that the marketing works all the time, but the pattern, this kind of broke the pattern. But anyway, that was a tangent inside a tangent. You were starting to talk about Pyra Mithra's actual sword play, right? Like the actual gameplay. How are you liking it so far? Because you're saying it's kind of like a sword character, but kind of not. Where'd your head at with that?
I mean, I was just gonna get at like they personally, I don't feel they bring anything exciting to the table. Like the coolest thing about them is that you get to swap characters, and while that does change their B moves, like it's not a I don't know, it's just not a new and exciting mechanic. Like Sephiroth, I felt like was able to get away with not really having any crazy new mechanic either, just because his things were just kind of exaggerated. Like the explosion of his B move, like yeah, it's just a projectile, but because it's just so huge and slow and like it covers like half the screen and can kill you easily, like it just really makes it stand out. Same thing for his soul flare or his shadow ball thingies that are kind of annoying to deal with, but I mean they're very much like his. Pyra and Mithra, they kind of feel like Byleth in the sense that it's just remixed stuff that we've seen already, just in a different combination. I mean, especially coming from like Steve, who had to practically get like the whole game reprogrammed to make them work.
Right.
Like these just like even like the character mechanics just feel safe as well. Like, yeah, Pyra's is slow and strong. She has the Ike up B.
Yeah.
I mean, she has like a slow but strong boomerang. Like, I don't know, the B is just a spin. Like, nothing, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know, like, they went out of their way to show in the presentation that, like, look, this is this move from that game. And even in the game, like, they didn't seem that exciting either, except for, like, a few. But, yeah, they just feel very, I guess, vanilla.
Yeah, I
don't know.
I think your Ike comparison is spot on, because the thing I picked up on is, like, Pyra's
ridiculously fast. I mean, she looks like she's like on the speed boost the whole time.
You mean
but
Mithra?
That,
not Pyra, Mithra.
I mean, yeah.
Well,
Mithra's
that's what I was gonna
ridiculously
say. Is like
fast.
Pyra's like, it's almost like Mithra is the Lucina to Pyra's Ike in terms of how they handled me. Like, I really thought going into it, I was gonna prefer the fact that Mithra is faster and everything, because I usually lean towards Lucina and that sort of speed. But I did find that I was kind of moving more towards Pyra's more powerful attacks more often than not, which I think Sakurai also mentioned in the presentation he preferred, so I guess I'm in good company.
It's really hard to kill with Mithra.
Yeah, but it's
like even at like really high percentages, like at over 100, like unless you land like a really good smash attack, like she's not gonna kill.
Yeah, so I did find myself kind of juggling the two of them, which I do appreciate that. Yeah, it's another sword fight, but at least it's different in that there's two of them and you are kind of juggling them. So you do have more of the generic sword moves to do, but it definitely feels like they took Ike, they took Lucina or someone, they smushed them together and made you swap between them. And I feel like the path to how this character got created was more interesting than the outcome, because Sakurai was detailing in his his Famitsu column in Japan, the magazine over there, that the character was at one point going to be two on screen at once. It was going to be Rex and Pyra, but logistically it got messy. They couldn't really get it working. Imagine if you had, I think he even said this in the presentation, imagine if you had Ice Climbers and them. That's a lot of characters on screen at once. So they kind of started whittling it down to this thing where it's basically just a swappable sword fighter. But the fact that you basically have an Ike and a Lucina in tandem and have to juggle the two of them at least helps it stand out a little from other sword fighters. Like, they individually don't seem that special, but having the duality kind of made them fun.
Like, compared to other sword fighters, they're their own thing. Like,
yeah.
I don't mean to say that they feel completely unoriginal. They're just not really exciting gameplay wise.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I don't really feel like I have to change the way I approach them compared to other just BD characters. Like, I feel like I have to approach Sephiroth differently because of the crazy range that he has, or I also have to approach like Steve differently. Even Min, like, you can't really fight him the same way. But Pyra and Mithra, they're just, it's like you're fighting Sheik or Greninja or Roy or
which even like
Prom for that matter.
Even in their classic mode, the way like the single player classic mode campaign, the way that they didn't have anything to pull from, like a lot of the other DLC characters you had really deep cuts of references or all sorts of stuff in classic mode. This one was literally like, hey, look at these other pairs of characters. It's like Zelda and Sheik and Samus and Dark Samus and Ryu and Ken. Go fight each of them. They just like the whole thing just feels kind of like, oh yeah, we've been here before.
I mean, yeah, honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that they can't swap between two characters,
yeah.
Even if only the B moves are changing, like it would probably be, at that point it might have been like disappointing even like from a gameplay perspective.
Yeah.
But
what's been
They're in the game.
I mean, you have a finger on the pulse of this. What's been the competitive scene's response to them? Are they as meh about it as we kind of are?
People are so far saying they're probably the best character in the game.
Wait, really?
Yeah, people already found way to potentially infinite an opponent.
Oh.
With Pyra's side B where she spins her sword like a top. Well, yeah, throws it forward like a boomerang, actually. Yeah. During that time where, she can't attack, because, they made it a point like, oh yeah, she can't attack while you're doing that. She could run up to the person trapped in the sword while they're spinning, jump on them to footstool them. And if the person misses their attack, like hitting the shoulder button right when they hit the ground, she could punch them once and then throw another boomerang sword. So she could
chain it.
And just rinse and repeat until they die.
I did notice when I was playing as her.
And even if they tech it...
We gotta look this up.
And I was gonna say, and even if they tech it, then she could, at one point, like, you have to expect that good people will start teching it, but even that doesn't save you because it just becomes like a 50-50. Like, she could either run at you, like, if she throws the sword in the direction you're gonna roll, then you're trapped in it again. Or, it's just like Ganondorf at that point, which doesn't make it bad. It just makes it, really dangerous to play against her. Also, just Mithra apparently just also has like a lot of shenanigans. People think this is a bug, but I guess she could, if she dodges towards the stage, higher than if she dodges towards the stage from a higher position than the platform where she would grab the ledge, from a higher position than the ledge, she will have invincibility the entirety of the time that she travels to it and grabs it, where normally people or other characters are vulnerable for like 2 frames, like right when they grab the ledge, which is where the term 2 framing comes in. Like usually as Bowser, I'll wait by the ledge when people are recovering and I'll try to time a forward tilt punch downward so that it'll hit them the moment they recover. And depending on the character, like sometimes, or the type of recovery, like I could almost land that really accurately. I know it just make it impossible for some people to recover, although they straight up die. But, that just makes her completely immune to it. And apparently Mithra also has their own, like, little crazy combos and stuff. But, yeah, they're really good. They're considered...
I will say the
really
Pyra, the exploit of sorts with her boomerang, I noticed that. Like, when I was just casually playing, I was like, oh, I threw it, but I can, like, move freely and just go up and wait there for it to end. Like, that, to the opponent, that seemed like a weird choice even to me, who doesn't even know, like... the ins and outs of, if I footstool them and do this, and if I use this frame, like, just on the surface, I was like, that seems OP. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they patch it.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of keeps in line with other characters that, like, when the Lynx throw a boomerang, or when anyone throws a boomerang for that matter.
Yeah, but hers, like lingers at that spot. That's the difference, I feel like. Like, Lynx, it goes and comes back. Like, hers, like, it hovers there for a second.
But all of the other people can attack at the same time. So, it's,
yeah.
Like, the only thing she can do is that footstool. That's, like, literally all she can do if she wants to do anything. Because even when she gets the sword back, that also has, like, some delay on it. So, like, she won't really be able to follow it up unless you footstool. Which is already just a really powerful thing. But, will that get patched out? Will it not? Who knows?
I'm going to guess yes. I mean, they just made some crazy changes to Pichu of all characters in the update. So, you never know who gets patched.
They buffed a lot of people. And they also nerfed a lot of people. This was an interesting patch. But yeah, overall, they seem fun to play as. I mean, they're definitely not boring.
I feel like overall it's just kind of a shrug. Like, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, spectator wise, they're not super exciting, but playing as them, like, they're welcome addition.
And the thing is, like, Lucina is one of my main characters I use, and if I gang Lucina vibes from Mithra, but then I also get the weight of Ike when needed with Pyra, like, I could see myself playing with this character more frequently. Like, it's kind of, it's like Lucina plus for me, so maybe I will get something out of this, even though I'm kind of ho-hum on its inclusion in the first place.
Yep.
But yeah, so
Which means we have to wait till probably June or July to hear something for the next one?
I would guess so, most likely, yeah, probably June. If they do a direct, that would be when E3 was supposed to be. Yeah, that would make sense. And then use that in the summer.
How many fighters are left? 2?
There are 2, yes. There's a part of me, back to the, Nintendo's going to use this for marketing perspective, that they're going to do what's his name from Skyward Sword. The bad guy with the tongue, whose name I'm completely forgetting. Girahim or whatever. There's a part of me that thinks he's going to be one of them. It just lines up with Nintendo's approach to this stuff, and his tongue will be his weapon.
Although while I don't see it as a valid argument, not what you just said, the whole Mii fighters having costumes.
Yeah.
I would at least give more weight to an assist trophy being in the game. Then I would give more weight to that, which Girahim does have an assist trophy, but
right. I forgot he does. Yeah. With his tongue.
But they could still do that. But I kind of hope not.
Or maybe
I hope
third party. Goose will be loose in Smash. I expect there's gonna be a Skyward Sword thing. I don't know.
I hope not. There's already a lot of Zelda characters.
Maybe a Loftwing Mii costume where you have a little silly hat like the felines from Monster Hunter. That would maybe be a more appropriate speed for something like that.
I could definitely see that.
Simultaneously, it could be Travis Touchdown. No More Heroes 3 is out in August. I know he has a Mii costume.
Damn. I guess there is a character that's third party that would be pretty ho-hum or...
Really? Why is that?
Is it because he's a sword fighter?
Just because he doesn't seem like... Yeah, he just doesn't seem like he would bring anything interesting. He just... Yeah, I guess probably just because he's another sword fighter. I don't know. I haven't played his games much, so maybe there is something about him that could make it really exciting, but I just think that he just does wrestling moves and fights with a sword.
Pretty much.
And that's pretty much it.
And literally, No More Heroes 3, we didn't really touch on it in last episode either, but that is just him doing the same thing, which I'm for. It's been so long since 1 and 2 came out. But yeah, he is very stuck in his ways of I am doing wrestling moves with a sword. So his character in Smash, I assume, will be the same. They just keep amping up what he's wrestling with his sword at. In the third one now it's aliens or whatever instead of assassins.
But I guess I would still be surprised. I guess I would definitely be surprised.
That one I feel would not surprise me. I mean, maybe it would because there's a Mii Fire, but Nintendo's working so closely with Grasshopper.
I'd be surprised at the audacity.
How dare they? But yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Maybe it'll be what's his name from Fortnite, the agent that apparently will have his closure in the new season.
Oh god. But yeah, that would also just straight up surprise me as well.
Yep, you never know. But yeah, so that's Smash. That's what's going on with Smash. We'll see where it goes next, but let's, I guess, now turn our attention to the other big release of late. One that all three of us have actually been playing, even together online, which I think is a rarity with us, which is Apex Legends. It arrived on Switch on March 9th. It's in the midst of its 8th season, I believe. And
8th season,
and
Mayhem.
Yep.
Yeah, it's never looked better.
Well, it's funny because I think first of all I appreciate that to help us switch newbies out. They're right now you can gain double XP, you can jump 30 levels automatically if you buy the pass thing, and there's crossplay with friends on other platforms, which is cool because Kevin was able to show us the ropes a little. But one thing that was kind of interesting that they didn't announce until the day before, there's no cross progression. So before we even get to the impressions of the game or how it handles on Switch, Kevin, I'm curious, as our resident Apex guy, is that a red flag for anyone who is currently in Apex? Never mind how it runs on Switch, but just the fact that they're not even letting you bridge the gap between what you've done so far in your version of Apex versus what the Switch one will let you do?
Yeah, absolutely. If anything, because of your limited hero selection or legend selection, the fact that I pretty much have to... The fact that I can only choose from the starting 5 or starting 6 is a real big bummer. The fact that I just can't have my full roster of legends is definitely a big bummer, and actually changes the way that you will play the game. Because especially in competitive, there is a meta where you specifically want to pick one of 4 legends, and the fact that you can unlock them by buying them. But I have never had to buy them, so I'm definitely not going to buy them on Switch.
Right. And to be fair to the poor guys at Panic Button who did the port, they did say it's coming at some point. I guess there are issues they have to work through, including getting the accounts lined up and some contractual and legal stuff. But there's a part of me that's looking at Apex and then looking at Fortnite and then looking at Rocket League and going, well, those 2 latter games were able to figure it out just fine, so I don't know what the difference is here. All 3 games have you sign in to the publisher's service, link your Nintendo account, 2 of them figured it out, why can't Apex? But, yeah, I think that's, at least going into it as someone who doesn't, obviously have played Apex anywhere else, I think that's kind of my thing with this port overall, is it does what it needs to do, but not as well as it could. Like, even as someone who doesn't have the experience, like Panic Button's super talented. They, with pouring games to Switch. Like, Doom is excellent. Rocket League's really good. It just struck me as odd that, like, with Apex, things feel ever so slightly off. Like, they have crossplay, but not cross progression. They have motion controls. Up and down, go up and down if you swing your controller. But for some reason, if you want to use the gyro to turn left or right, you have to do like kind of a steering wheel motion with the controller, not sort of a rolling your wrist like you do with any other game that uses motion aiming, including Panic Button's own port of Doom. So that just kind of stuck out to me as like they're so close with so much of this, and then just a little off, which makes me wonder, Kevin, since you have so much Apex experience, like how worse of an experience is it on Switch? Like, does it feel like it's just way off base? Even like if I feel a little off as a Switch only guy, does it feel totally off as someone who's used to Apex on like a more powerful machine?
You know what? For what it is, I kind of expected the Switch port to look like this and run like this. If anything, it reminds me of why I don't play first-person shooters with controllers anymore. It felt like I went back to the PS1 days where I would move and then look around and then move, stop, look around. Like, the game is so fast paced, and I felt like I was a snail with just how traversal is on the Switch, or just how traversal feels on the Switch.
Sure. Right. Yeah, I think, or go ahead.
And then, and then I guess if you want to go into the technicals, but no, go.
I was just gonna say, I think, before we even get to technicals, I think it's interesting that, like, you're coming in saying it feels so glacial to you, essentially, and I think in a way, like, not having that point of reference is letting me overlook a lot of that. Like, the game definitely has kind of this weird, first of all, on the technical side, the game's very blurry compared to some other games, like, especially in handheld mode. I tried handheld and TV and dock, whatever. And in handheld,
handheld is absolutely unplayable.
It was
Panic Button.
Again,
it's unplayable
for me because I didn't have the point of reference. I was fine with it. It felt like it was smudged with Vaseline, but like I was okay. It was fine. It wasn't ideal, but it was fine. Like, you know what I mean?
I think to a certain point, you're only fine with it because there's barely a part of it that works. I guess coming from where it runs at 60 frames, because here we are at 30 frames. It's 720p on your TV. It's 576p on your handheld. I guess if you're at 60 frames, like 1080, it makes a big difference. No, I feel even if I was at 720, 30, and then switching over to that 572 or whatever, I'd still would find it unacceptable.
Interesting. I do agree in the sense of I don't think I will choose to play handheld a ton of the time. But like, like the Joy-Cons don't have as good of range with the sticks as a normal Pro Controller, that sort of thing. But yeah, I need, the thing that jumped out to me most is the frame rate. Like, it does feel a bit clunky. But like, I didn't know, I mean, you were talking about how, like, the movement and everything. I didn't have the point of reference. So like, it feels clunky, but I'm like, okay, this is just how the game handles. And then like when Angel and I were playing last week, we jumped to Rocket League right after, and it's like, oh, games can run much smoother on Switch. Like it's like, oh, this is what Apex is, but then it's like, boom, night and day performance, which is funny because Rocket League's also Panic Button.
And even I believe that Switch version is hampered compared to, say, a PS4 or PC version of Rocket League.
I do think, but or go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I do think that Panic Button did some good stuff with the port, though. Like, I don't want to, like, they worked with what they had. Like, it's super minor, but I appreciate even little things. Like, they made the text in menus notably different sizes when playing in handheld versus on a TV, which is a problem a lot of Switch games have, where it's just super tiny in handheld. And like, the ability to actually toggle, like, they have crossplay, right? But the ability to actually turn on and off if you want the broader Apex player base or just other Switch players, that's appreciated, especially in light of how much...
Which you will not want to, because you are just going to get wrecked by people who have higher frame rates than you, especially in a game like this. Yeah.
Which is why it's good that there's that toggle.
I understand why they had to put crossplay in, but man, this just isn't the game for you to enter crossplay. You are at a huge disadvantage, even if you're playing docked.
Right. It is funny though, because like they put in some good, like, it was so easy when us three played the other night, and it was so easy to find you. Like, I feel like so many games like, oh, sign into your Epic account. Now do this, now do that. This one's just like, all right, just go search your username. There's your Switch account. There's your PC account. Click, done. Like, most Switch games don't have that ease of use with the crossplay stuff, I feel like. So, like, it's funny what they spent time baking in, only to have it be kind of over. Even the fact that it has, I forgot about this, even the fact that it has system level Switch invites. So, like, you could be playing another game and get a ping like, hey, come play Apex with me. That's pretty slick. And the fact that they spent time doing that's pretty cool, but kind of, it just makes it that much more glaring, the things they couldn't do because of the limitations of the Switch, I guess. Yeah, I mean, Angel, what'd you think of it? You're in the same boat as me. This is our first time playing Apex.
I mean, I had the time of my life, and I don't think I ever felt this way before. Yeah.
Okay, Cyndi
True.
Lauper.
And it's all in spite of you.
Is that Cyndi Lauper's song? Did I get that reference right?
I don't think it's a Cyndi Lauper song. It's definitely not. It's from Dirty Dancing.
I think it's a Cyndi Lauper song. She's from that era.
It definitely isn't when I looked up the song.
Time of My Life.
Jennifer something.
Oh, right. It's Bill Medley and Jennifer Warren. Wow, I can't believe I got that wrong. And doubled down on it, too.
Who would ever get that wrong?
Man.
Who are those two names that you even mentioned?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, get out of here.
Is this your subtle way of telling us you
anyway.
just watched Dirty Dancing for the first time?
I don't think it was subtle, but I did enjoy the game. I don't know. I think these types of shooters, or maybe it's making me realize that I guess they're not necessarily my preferred type of shooter anymore. Maybe I've just been spending way too much time in Splatoon, where I think, I don't know, I don't know. Obviously, everything I feel I'm about to say is completely wrong, but
good preface. Okay.
Like, I don't know. I guess I just need to practice. Just spend way more time in the shooting range, just because, like, shooting wise, yeah, I'm like, I have way more to go on that. I don't know. I guess I just liked the more simplistic scope of Splatoon for each of the levels. I don't know. It just feels, I don't know. It just didn't click with me, I guess. I'll play it again. It's fun with playing with friends for sure, but I can't see myself just like picking this up on my own and just going like, yeah, I feel like playing some Apex. But
there is definitely depth. I mean, when we were playing the other night, Kevin, you just like casually mentioned
I can see why people like it, but
what is the crafting system? Like, what is that on top of the main shooting mechanics?
Do you actually, was that rhetorical, or do you actually want to?
No, like what's it do? Like, what are you crafting?
Oh, well, I mean, you could just craft more ammo. Every week, there are 2 items that are in rotation that you won't be able to find on the maps at all. So, like, usually one of the bigger ones is like a backpack. The backpack that completely maxes out your storage. You will have to craft that. You won't be able to find it on the map. So you have to find crafting materials, and then you'll get crafting materials every single time that you open up a bin. So there's that was introduced, I believe. When was season 6? Boosted, yeah.
So it's tacked on.
Came with a rampart.
It was as tacked on as it felt when you randomly were just like, "Hey, there's crafting." I'm like, "What?"
I mean, I guess tacked on, but it's definitely changed the game. Sure.
I guess it wasn't in the original scope of things, but
no, sure.
Yeah, I feel like Angel, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum here. I actually find it to be a lot of fun. I mean, it does, like you're saying, it helps to have a bunch of people I know who have it and want to play online, but like besides that, it just like, I don't know, it feels like a better mix of gameplay elements to me. Like, you know, you're saying you prefer to say Splatoon. Like, I keep comparing it to Fortnite in my head because, you know, it's another battle royale, and I tried Fortnite way back when. I don't remember where it came out, and I was pretty mad on it. Like, I can see why some people can get into it, but for me, it just felt kind of like slow because it takes so long to find opponents or weapons, and even the character movement just felt a bit odd. Like, it's a little like not choppy, but
I mean, everything you described right now, like, I feel like I could say about Apex.
But well, that's where it differs from me, because with Apex, it is the same idea of needing to find weapons and opponents after you drop it to the environment, but because it's by Respawn, who headed up the Infinity, you know, they were founded by the Infinity Ward guys. They have some Call of Duty history. It immediately resonated with me a bit more because it's got some of those like early Call of Duty elements, like obviously the first person perspective, but just like the whole way weaponry is handles and feels, and how you look down the barrel of or scope with, you know, the same kind of Call of Duty, press the short button, it zooms in, or even the special moves like Bangalore's airstrike is like straight out Call of Duty. Like a lot of it just felt more familiar, I guess, than Fortnite, or more like where I'm used to playing, because I used to play Call of Duty with my friend on his Xbox 360 all the time. And then it also just felt more fluid to me. I mean, granted, the Switch one's a little chunky, but even comparing clunky, even comparing clunky Fortnite with clunky Apex, I feel like Apex was the smoother of the two. Like, it's just, there's such an emphasis on movement and fluidity, and, you know, like sliding around when holding A was fun as you descend down hills, or like zip lines. Like, it's super simple stuff, but just feels like you're more in constant motion than with something like Fortnite. So of the two, I feel like I'm leaning more towards Apex for sure, and I could probably see myself playing it a bit more, as long as I have friends to play with. I think. I mean, to your point, Angel, like, I don't know if I'm gonna hop on by myself. I tried that a little yesterday. It was pretty fun, but it loses something without having voice chat with your friends. I will give it credit that one thing I was pretty impressed by is how elaborate the ping system is in Apex. Like, they know voice chat.
Oh yeah, the ping system was a game changer in the industry.
Yeah, it's crazy, because they know that, like, voice chat's not always an option. So they did this thing where you could ping everything and point at anything, you know, weapons, enemies, items, locations. You can even send a ping back that's just an okay, that it prompts you if you know you are going to engage with something that's happening. I thought it was like a really great way to kind of circumvent the voice chat or not having friends to talk with issues. Like I said, I did a couple games by myself with strangers. Ping system got us pretty far. I got the same place I got with you guys the night before, so 8th, I think. So, you know, I think there's more potential, at least for my enjoyment of Apex, than there was for Fortnite or anything like that. But it does lead me to another question for you, Kevin. If I do get into Apex any deeper, I gotta imagine I'm gonna hit some monetization schemes, right? It's a free to play game. Like, how?
Nope.
No. So how does free to play work in this game? Like, walk us through it a bit for us new folk.
You play for free. That's how it works.
Thank you. Okay, great. No, but there's no, like, what are you paying for in the game, should you choose to pay?
So there are microtransactions. So you can buy the battle pass every season. That will just get you, you'll get skins. It's all very aesthetic. There's never a pay to win function in this game, ever.
That's
You
great.
can pay for heroes, like I said, but if you play consistently, you'll get enough to just earn a hero for free. At this point, I have earned enough of that currency to the point where as soon as a new season starts, I will be able to buy the new legend and pretty much not have to worry about grinding for it. Yeah, there's a shop where you can buy. It's all aesthetic. There's never a pay to win function, which I like. They do get kind of greedy with the seasonal events. Like right now, there's a seasonal event, and skins are pretty expensive. But yeah, the game at no point is like ever shoves microtransactions in your face.
That's
Ever.
really nice to hear, actually, because, you know, so much of the industry at one point was trying to move that way. That the fact that it's a little more like a step back from being too aggressive is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there are loot boxes in this game. But like I said, the game never is trying to sell you a loot box.
Right.
And then like every 2 levels, you also grab a loot box, so it's pretty fast.
So Kevin, is there anything else you want to talk about with the Switch version? As our
I don't know.
resident
Some
dude.
games are just not made for Switch. Well, like I said, it was definitely eye-opening to go back to a controller on a first-person shooter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so used to mouse and keyboard now, and even you know, as a mouse and keyboard player, I still whiff shots consistently, and not being able to hit a single shot on the Switch with both the Joy-Cons on the Switch Pro controller was definitely eye-opening. I would almost rather people not play the game this way, especially because there's always the chance that somebody plays this and they think, wow, this is the Apex experience, when it is not the Apex experience at all. I'd rather people play this on even a base PS4 than possibly get the wrong idea of this game on Switch.
It's funny because, like, as a Switch only guy, I'm very like content with what it is. Like, but maybe I have my expectations in check,
absolutely.
knowing because I'm a Switch only guy.
And if you do have fun with the game, at least okay, that's you're able to look past all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
and still find
yeah.
Fun with the game.
But
But
if
if
your only
you
option,
don't,
then
yeah. But then, like I said, if you go into this game expecting something and you don't get it, I feel like that's not. People are going to blame Apex Legends more than I feel they're going to blame the Switch.
That's fair.
And that's what I don't want people to do. Apex Legends is a great game. It's a great free-to-play game. The business model, while it can seem predatory, especially with some of the skins during the events, the pricing-wise, it's not a... what's the word? It's never mean-spirited when it comes to the microtransactions.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's all about performance at the end of the day. This is a fast-paced game, and feeling so sluggish as it does on Switch, even if you have no reference point, is a little disheartening. I saw a lot of comments that were like, well, the PS4 and Xbox versions had issues when they released them. I just think to myself, that's not a good excuse for this game to have its issues that it does, especially when it comes to performance.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel like they should have worked on the frame rate a little bit more. Because, like I said, it's great that they included crossplay in this, and I understand why they did. But going into crossplay with a 30 frame difference is a huge difference.
Yeah.
So,
and it's something that other games have sort of found ways to circumvent. Like Fortnite, when you play multi-platform with the Switch version, you're playing against people on smartphones because it's also 30 frames. They don't even let you touch the 60 frame people. So there are like different approaches to it. This is just one road they chose.
Right. And like one great example that I see is Rogue Company. Rogue Company runs on 60 frames on Switch. And granted, Rogue Company isn't as graphically intensive as Apex Legends, but I feel that's a good example where playing that game crossplay, you're pretty much on parity with, the PC version and the other console versions. What will be interesting to see is there is a mobile version of Apex being developed. And I just wonder how that is going to run compared to the Switch version.
Maybe they are good.
I have a feeling that it's going to be better. Noticeably better.
Given where smartphones are at these days, I wouldn't be surprised, truthfully.
Because the example that comes to mind is Call of Duty Mobile. Call of Duty Mobile looks pretty incredible on smartphones. I don't really play it, but I've seen what it looks like, and I see how it runs. I'm like, wow, this is... And granted, Call of Duty Mobile was built from the ground up for mobile.
Yeah.
But, I don't see why Apex on mobile isn't going to run any better than Apex on Switch.
Right. I do think for anyone listening that wants a sense of just how big this contrast is, we recorded a couple nights back when the three of us played together. We recorded our online session. It's a bit of a crash course of how the game works. It's a bit of a showcase of the PC version versus the Switch version, and it's with our lovely voices and personalities that you all admire so much. So it's going to be on our YouTube, RamNintendo.com, probably in the coming week or so. We're reviving our old VidBit brand, if you want to call it that, video series to do this under. I think it's the first VidBit in like 6 years. And for those who aren't long-time listeners, definitely the first since Kevin's been on board. And for those who aren't long-time listeners, basically VidBit is us just playing some games and chatting and like talking about the experience a little more than just like a live stream where it's just, here's just a slice of us playing. It's us kind of providing something a little more, but not like podcast level. So we'll have that up later in the week, probably. And, like I said, it's going to be on our YouTube. We'll tweet it out. But if you guys kind of want a sense, because Kevin was on PC and Angel and I were on Switch, and we have captures of both PC and Switch. So we kind of want a sense of what that's like or how the gameplay mechanics work. If you're like me and kind of like Apex, even on Switch, it's probably worth checking out. And that's the end of my plug for that. So, but I do think, Kevin, you raised a really good point about like the power of the power of Switch and how it's maybe holding things back, or how, smartphones are probably going to exceed it at this point. And I think honestly, one of the really glaring aspects of the whole Apex experience, and I mean the whole experience, like from wanting to play it to actually getting it, is how this game really demonstrates it may be time for the Switch to get an upgrade of some sort. I mean, the process of just getting this thing up and running, it requires like 25 to 30 gigs to download on a system whose internal storage maxes out at 32 gigs. And once you finally do and get past all the login screens and whatnot, you're greeted with a game that, as we sort of already touched on, is running at the bare minimum of HD on your TV, 720p, and sub HD. I think I said it was 576 before or something like that on handheld. And it's sort of that double whammy of like the experience of downloading it and seeing what it looks like that made me actually stop and think like, yeah, you know, I'd upgrade my Switch. Because let's face it, if Switch wants to continue to draw third-party games, it's going to need to do some sort of DSi-like power boost. When there's, you know, stories from EA of how like Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville, that was originally going to launch in tandem on Switch with the other versions in 2019, but then it took them a year and a half to get Frostbite, the engine that it runs on, up and running on Switch. At a period of time, it was running 2 frames per second on Switch. And it was like watching a slideshow, and they had to keep like whittling away. And now they got up to 30 frames at least. But, you know, hearing those stories, seeing the new consoles come in, it may be time for an update, which, you know, makes the timing of a new report from Bloomberg about what to expect from a Switch hardware revision this year all that more interesting. So on the Switch's 4th anniversary, Bloomberg published a story detailing some of Nintendo's plans for a new version of the Switch. It's a bit what we've heard before, along with some new details. So first, as expected, yes, it will support 4K output to TVs when docked. And second, yes, it will include a larger screen. According to Bloomberg, we're looking at a 7-inch screen supplied by Samsung. I believe the original screen was supplied by Sharp. But here's the twist. That 7-inch screen versus the current Switch's, I think, 6.2, and the Switch Lite's 5.5, 5.6, somewhere around there. The 7-inch screen is going to be OLED. So it's going to be richer colors, better viewing angles, and a fun one for everyone, the chance of potential burn-in on your screen. So get ready for that. But the catch is that it's going to still be at 720p, even though it'll be OLED and bigger. Does that bother anyone?
The burn-in, I guess the possible burn-in issue would, but no. Aside from that, no.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of I was curious to see if, you know, since you do play on more powerful devices, if that bothers you. I don't think it bothered me either. I mean, one would assume that if they're doing a 720p, or let me rephrase that. One would assume that if they're doing a Switch that's like a half step, like the sort of 4K one, they're not going to bump the screen to 1080p because battery power, and more to the point, so many games, as we were just talking about with Apex, run at sub HD that they could just get them up to 720. It's still going to be a boost in handheld mode. If they try and if they do a 1080p screen, your game's still running at 576 because they didn't get patched. It's got to look that much more noticeable, you know? So yeah, I'm kind of cool with that too. I think what's more interesting is, if the screen you have smaller bezels. Like there's way too big of a Joy-Con ecosystem right now for them to physically make bigger controllers, I would imagine. So I'm guessing that the new Switch is probably going to be the same size, accommodate existing Joy-Cons, maybe hopefully with a drift fix, but will just be more screen and less bezel, which is, you know, kind of in the direction that smartphones are going. So that's kind of cool. In my mind, the screen also sort of points to a bit of a mini power boost, though, being that much more plausible, making something like Apex maybe run smoother should they choose to patch it. Because, like, you need a little extra under the hood for 4K. You know, native or some sort of conversion thing. You can't just put the same chip in and call it a day. So I imagine if you're in handheld mode, why not let games like Apex be able to harness that same extra processing power to at least get to 720? Like, I can't think of very many, if any, Switch games that are sub HD in docked mode, but there are for sure a bunch that are sub HD in handheld mode. So that kind of alleviates that issue, and then lets the OLED shine a little, and does it in kind of the most Nintendo-y, like, minimal effort way possible. Like, they don't have to change every game. They'll just sort of make the screen a little prettier. Maybe if you want to bump it up, you can bump it up to, like, just the bare minimum of what HD means. So yeah, I'm kind of okay with that. But what Bloomberg did not discuss is what else the new Switch may offer, and that's kind of where things get interesting. I think one would hope that with falling costs of memory over time, internal storage of 32 gigs could maybe be doubled to 64 or even go up to 128. I would love for anything more, because now every time I download a game, I have to archive older software and the like, which is painful for me as a digital pack rat who wants all that stuff always accessible because, you know, the eShop server's going to close one day, and in 20 years, I'll need one time that I want to go try a game, and I won't be able to because I had to archive the software. So, what was that, Angel? What were you saying?
No, just a port thing.
I know, it's really painful, but that's kind of a minor thing. Beyond that, I think our question becomes like, what would this have? Because if Nintendo, it's sounding like if they're going with a bigger screen and they're going with you know, an OLED, but they're keeping the resolution the same, and then they're like, oh, well, we could do 4K on TV. Like, it sounds like they're trying to do sort of a bigger, better version of the same console, like the DSi to the DS, the new 3DS XL to the 3DS. You know, something like that it's a more premium product, quality of life type release, the same way that like the Switch Lite was marketed as a more portable, like affordable type of release. So are there other things when you look at your Switch that you really just want them to fix? I don't mean like new features. I mean like I could give you an example. I want Bluetooth audio. Like, it's a couple years ago at E3, Genkai, whatever their name is, hooked me up with this handy dongle. Genki, thank you. Hooked me up with this handy dongle.
Wow, Jason.
That, yeah, yeah, I'm sorry, people that gave me the free dongle. But they gave me this dongle that plugs into the Switch's USB-C port, lets you use wireless headphones with the system, and it does work well, and it's pretty nice and compact, and it's not too expensive either. I think it's like $45. But as someone who just recently bought his first pair of AirPods, which, by the way, are amazing. I can't believe I waited this long to do it. But anyway, as someone who is now used to native Bluetooth and everything, I kind of want like a Switch Plus or a Switch Pro or a Super Switch or whatever they end up calling this thing to just gain native Bluetooth audio support. It's just more convenient than needing to bust out a dongle and plug it into the system and have it just kind of sit there. It's not really in the way, but it does stick out. It feels kind of, you know, like a hack. So if it's a minor thing, but if they're already just upping a screen res, just give us Bluetooth. Like, it seems just more, again, premium than what the Switch currently offers. Like, is there anything like that you guys want? Or are you pretty content with your Switch experience?
Not really. Pretty content with my Switch experience.
Yeah, I can't really think
90% of the time. So.
All right, then I got another for you.
Yeah.
I'll keep building a list on our three's behalf. Kickstand.
I guess being able to output without the dock would be good.
Oh, that'd be cool.
USB-C to HDMI.
That's another sort of dongle situation.
It's a hardware thing, but just being able to record, I guess, clips across all games and not just certain games. Like, it's kind of annoying that I can't do that for Smash Brothers. Just record the last 30 seconds of gameplay.
That definitely feels like something that would benefit from if they were to upgrade the RAM a little in some capacity. Like, obviously they're not going to do night and day where suddenly this thing has like triple the RAM and can compete with the PS5, you know, like that's not going to happen. But if they bump the RAM a little, there's so many little quality of life things they could do. Because yeah, they could let you capture any game. Because the reason you can't capture games isn't because there's some like embargo against the game. It's because they don't have anywhere to store that video while it's encoding in the RAM because the game's using it all. So, at least from my understanding. So the ability to do that, if they just add a little more RAM, would be one of those small changes that could be kind of significant. And if they do have more RAM, maybe they copy or figure out a way to kind of do what the Series X and S, the Xboxes, do, where you can have multiple suspend states of multiple games. Because, again, something Apex Legends pointed out to me, as I noted earlier, it uses system-level invites. So if you're playing a game and your friend's like, let's play Apex, you can jump over and play, and it'll tell you in your game, but you have to quit your game. Which isn't the end of the world, but like if I'm playing Bowser's Fury and a friend's like, let's hop on Apex, I would kind of like to, you know, go play Apex for a few rounds and come back to Bowser's Fury, and it's right where I left it, you know? Like, it's one of those things that, like, yeah, it requires some additional spec boosts, kind of like how 4K output's going to require some additional spec boosts, but it's not going to necessarily change the type of game that a newer Switch could run or make it a truly next-gen system. It's just like a quality of life thing that just uses the existing architecture to kind of enhance the experience overall and bring it in line with what the other guys do. But one thing I do think physically they should do is a better kickstand. Like, that thing is like, if they're already, you know, if they're redesigning this thing and they're giving you a better screen and that sort of thing, like, fix the kickstand. Like, I don't use it a ton, but it does get some heavy use when traveling, which, you know, having passed the 1 year COVID lockdown mark this week, obviously hasn't been a big thing lately, but in those first 3 years of the Switch, I definitely did tabletop mode for multiplayer on like the seatback trays of airplanes, the tables of hotel rooms. Angel, I think you even had set up in the backseat of a car when we were driving to Vegas once, like with the kickstand on the armrest. So like, you know, through it all, that dinky little kickstand kind of works, but it definitely like does not work well. Like it tips over. It's not stable. It pops off. Like, I'd love to see them borrow or rip off or riff on like the Microsoft Surface kickstand or something similar where the whole back part can kick out and give you a more solid grounding for your Switch, which again, premium experience, quality of life sort of deal, that seems like it'd make a big difference in terms of making a higher quality Switch. Like, I think where, based on the Bloomberg report and my own hopes and dreams, I honestly think where the new Switch could go, whatever they name it, is as a kind of it'll be the iPhone 12 Pro to the regular Switch's iPhone 12 to the Switch Lite's iPhone 12 Mini. You know what I mean? Like, they can have multiple price points, multiple qualities of Switch. It lines up a lot with what Shuntaro Furukawa, who's Nintendo's president, he keeps saying that the Switch is only halfway through its life. The platform may outlast others by Nintendo in terms of total lifespan. Like, it lines up with the industry trend of more iterative updates over time. You know, like Xbox PlayStation has the Pro and Xbox has different series now, and perhaps most notably the idea that the Switch could be like paced out as multiple iterative ideas of one platform. Like, that lines up, frankly, with the fact that this thing could be out as soon as this fall, according to Bloomberg, even though Switch sales continue to be astronomical. Like, on the surface, you could argue, is there even really a need to release new Switch hardware? February's NPD report came out for US game sales just Friday, and for the 27th month in a row, in February of 2021, the Switch was on top in terms of both units sold and dollars earned. In a February where all game hardware sales were up 121% compared to a year ago, Switch still was at the top of that heap against, you know, the next-gen guys. Granted, they have shortages, but generally speaking, it's doing really well. And Nintendo's still...
I thought the PS5 beat it already.
Not in terms of I
know that
unit sales, because of all the shortages.
I know, yeah, they were going by dollars sold,
yes,
so technically
yes.
They could have sold half as much and plus one.
It's still, exactly. And not only that, but like, if you want to talk dollars sold, the Switch in its lifetime just last month in the US surpassed the lifetime dollars earned of the DS. So it's now the second most successful Nintendo platform in terms of dollars owned in the US, behind the Wii. Huh. So it's still making a ton of money. And Nintendo's in this position where, like,
all right, I'll admit that's an interesting fact that
there you go.
I'm a little surprised.
There you go. It only took 250 episodes to get you a sales stat. You're actually like, interesting. But we did it. We did it. Balloons are now falling down with confetti on me because I finally achieved it. But yeah, I was going to say that Nintendo is in this position now where, like, anything they come out is like instantly popular. Anything they come out with is instantly popular. Like Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury, I just talked about a second ago. #1 selling game in February. In period, across all platforms. A port of a Wii U game that never charted, even though it was a flagship holiday release, with about 6 hours of added gameplay, priced exactly the same as the original, just went #1 7 years later. And that's on top of, you know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Animal Crossing New Horizons. They're still in the top 10 at #8 and #9 respectively. Then if you look at the top 20, there's still Smash Bros. There's still 3D All-Stars. There's still Ring Fit Adventure. There's still Breath of the Wild. Like, even multi-platform stuff on Switch is doing well. Persona 5 Strikers debuted at #3 overall, which I'm sure is entirely thanks to your glowing impressions last episode, Kevin. But yeah, that was '3. Little Nightmares 2 was #6. Like, anything on Switch is just sort of doing well. So there's arguably no immediate financial need for a new Switch right now, but doing some sort of premium device allows for Nintendo, when the time comes later this year, to basically do a price drop without a price drop, you know, to keep that momentum constant and not let up. Like, Bloomberg saying, as of now, the new OLED screens are going to go into production in June. The systems are going to begin to be assembled in July to tune about 1 million systems per month, and that could be out in time for the holidays, which is a year in, you know, at that point, a PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. And by then, yeah, Switch may look a little long in the tooth. You got these 4K systems. You got this other one that's been out for 4.5 years at that point. And, you know, that's not even including the fact that the Switch has never seen a price drop. So you got the $300 Switch that's 4 years old. A Series S is the same price as a Switch. And $100 more will get you a PS5 digital edition. But so that's, you know, it's not the best position for Nintendo, even if they are killing it in sales right now. But if there's this new Switch, one that checks the 4K box like its competitors, they can sell that at the same $300 price, maybe even raise it $50 to $350, but then you drop the existing Switch to $200 or $250. You bring the Switch Lite down to $150 or $179, which is a number they used to love using for like the various handhelds. There'd all be, I think at one point the Game Boy Advance SP was $79, and then the DS was $179 at one point. Like they love that $79 number. So they could do that, and they've got something for every portion of the market and going into the holidays. Like they got the top tier that can compete with the next gen. They got kind of the mid-range, and they got the budget. So that might be the angle they take with 4K Switch. Would you guys pay for a more premium Switch?
I mean, I guess right now I would, just because my Switch is, I know I've said it many, many times, but it's definitely really showing its age. It's incredibly noisy. Yeah, most likely, yeah. So, I mean, I didn't get I didn't make any like big purchases this year or last year outside of like my PC, so I think I'm due for a console like this.
Yeah,
right. It just feels
probably
like
absolutely would buy a 4K Switch.
Now, would you guys mainly want it for? Well, I guess Angel, you want it because yours is dying. But Kevin, are you more interested in 4K on your TV, or are you more interested in that bigger handheld screen? Because you tend to play a lot in bed, right? Like Hades and everything.
Yeah. But honestly, all those games are run. I just want the performance boost. I want this to be much closer in parity to a PS4 than what it is already right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, would you be
okay?
Go ahead. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
I was just say, would you be okay? Let's say they do a performance boost, and it's a little more than what I was just talking about. Would you be okay with the idea of Switch 4K exclusive games? Because like you were mentioning PlayStation, PS Pro, I don't think ever had exclusive games, right? But new 3DS had some exclusives like Xenoblade. Like, is splitting the user base reasonable given the performance boost? Like, do you think that comes with the territory? If they
performance boost.
No, honestly, no. I understand it's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
But that's just going to look really bad on Nintendo.
That's what I'm thinking. Because apparently, according to, I forget his name, but he was on Game Inform. He was part Game Inform, and then he spun off and is now doing his own thing. He's a game journalist. Dev kits are out there specifically for the 4K Switch, and it sounds like some projects, their rumblings, may be 4K Switch only. Which, yeah, I don't know about that either. I think the idea of having like 3 tiers and you can tackle 3 different markets only really works if it does do the full iPhone strategy or the full PS Pro strategy or the full Xbox Series strategy where they run across all 3 just at different qualities, I guess you could say. I mean, because they've already kind of trained us to think that as Switch owners, because handheld you expect one thing, console docked you expect another thing, and you understand there's a difference, and even within some games you could change those differences, like some have a performance mode so it's a little faster but not as pretty. Like, there's ways that people are kind of getting conditioned to understand that in the Nintendo bubble. But if they were to just like cut it off completely, like they do with the new 3DS, and be like, hey, here's one of 5 games that's only possible on that fancier one, I think, that's going to be asking for trouble, probably. Hey, Angel,
Big trouble.
Big trouble. Angel, I assume, are you in the same boat there, or do you feel it's not that big of a deal?
I guess. I mean, if I'm buying this new console, I personally wouldn't care.
Right.
Because, I would have access to it, so why would it matter? If I decide not to get it for whatever reason, yeah, I guess I would be annoyed. So, I guess because of that, I guess I would have to say it'd be a bad idea.
Hear that, Nintendo? You don't want to annoy Angel. But yeah, I do. It's funny because you two were so like, oh yeah, I'd get it. And I think if you asked me that like 3 months ago, I don't know if I would, more than 3. I think it's like 4.5 now, but I don't know. Like before I had a 4K TV, I like to think it would have been a tougher sell for me, I think. I mean, yes, I'm the sucker who buys every improved Nintendo platform. I have 3 3DSs. But if the one big standout feature was 4K and I still have my 1080p TV, I don't know if just like the larger handheld mode would have swayed me more. I mean, it probably would have. Who am I kidding? It probably would have. But like the hesitation, hesitation I have though, it has definitely been erased by having a 4K TV. But
I don't think that hesitation is valid because at the time or even now, this is still unconfirmed. So I feel like this is all still like
speculative. Yeah,
I feel like Yeah, I feel because like the moment it's announced,
good.
none of that matters. Especially for you, Jason. You're like the kind of person that will say literally all of this. I mean, case in point, your iPhone 12.
Yeah, I love this thing
You will,
now, by the way.
you will theory craft and you will say like, yeah, like, you can justify why you wouldn't get it and tell us that you're not. But the moment it's like becomes available, or you just finally see it in hand or whatever, you're like, yeah, I'm getting it.
You mean like
That's
when
it.
we went to go pick up Rhythm Heaven and I wasn't going to get a DSi, and then we went to GameStop together back in college, and then 20 minutes later, I'm walking out the store with a DSi and Rhythm Heaven?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a thing.
you're a terrible person.
I caved so fast. But yeah, I think honestly, like, I probably would have caved, but been more comfortable caving if it kept the $300 price point, hypothetically. If it went up to $350,
I mean,
having the 4K is what's going to make it, like, that's totally fine.
I mean, your Nintendo's Ashley Simpson. I mean, this was never for the bait.
This is true. And for those of you who don't understand that reference, check out our last Quarantine Chronicles. It's very enlightening and insightful about who I am and what I stand for and how I'm Nintendo's French maid.
And I guess apples for...
And apples.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was like, I don't like the Apple Watch. I want a round watch, not a square watch. A month after release, I had the Series Zero in my hands. So I'm very bad at, I like new tech, what can I say?
Yeah. Top 10 worst people in the world.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
Sure.
Okay, that escalated very quickly. Is that it? Is there anything else we want to cover? It's been kind of a quiet Nintendo news cycle. We had so much last time with the presentations between the Direct and Pokemon, and this time we just had some games and Bloomberg.
Nintendo really blew their load for the last episode.
Yeah, this is why I don't want them to do Directs anymore, so we can bear pacing. But before we go, actually, there is one more thing we need to do.
Wouldn't that just mean that we're starved for like months of news and then one big news thing?
If they kept the Directs, yeah. If they did like the drip feed of tweets, we'd be okay. We'd have like...
I think he said he doesn't want big Directs anymore.
Do not. That's the Direct police. I don't know if you hear that siren on the recording. They heard me say that and they're kind of arrest me because I guess Nintendo loves Directs. But one thing before we go.
Or in HQ.
We do, it is our 250th episode of the podcast. We have that $25 eShop credit giveaway to do. Reaching 250 episodes, I feel like, is not a feat we take too lightly by any means. Like, it wouldn't have been possible without all the listeners out there. So we do really appreciate, I don't know, I have to clear my throat. Speech. No, we do really appreciate you taking the time to hear our ramblings out there, whether you've been doing it since day one or if this is your very first episode and you're like, Jason won't shut up. Either way, thank you for listening, and a special shout out to anyone who engages with the show beyond just listening, whether you're hitting us up on Twitter, in our comments, elsewhere. Like, it's cool to see that what we're saying connects with you enough that you actually want to circle back to us about it. So that's cool. So, about that contest. Unless you guys had anything you want to add about 250.
I guess not.
Cool. So about that contest. So this episode skewed heavily towards competitive games, right? We talked Smash. We talked Apex. So the idea for the contest is we want to know what your favorite is, Nintendo or not. Head over to Nintendo.com, click on the blog post for this episode. That's episode 250, choose your weapon, and leave a comment at the bottom of that blog post with your favorite competitive game. We will choose one winner, announce it in the next Ram Nintendo, and we'll probably, I guess, share our favorites as well at that point. So think of that, guys. You have 2 weeks and you can't win a gift card. But to make sure you don't miss it, to make sure you don't miss if you're the winner, all you listeners out there who are eligible, you can subscribe to us in your favorite podcasting apps. We're in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We are on TuneIn. I'm trying to think if I could hit all of them today. We're on, I could probably just make one up and no one would know the difference. We're on Podcastopia, among others, and we're also on YouTube at Ramtown.com.
That's probably real.
You think it is? It probably is. I know Podcast Act is real. But yeah, and you can follow us on Twitter at Ram Nintendo. And I suggest you do subscribe to our YouTube, Ramtown.com, because in the coming days, as we were saying before, we're going to be reviving VidBit. You can watch us play Apex Legends and maybe learn a thing or two from Kevin's expertise of the game. And you can get even more Kevin-y goodness in our sideshow, Quarantine Chronicles, which will have a new episode next weekend, before Ram Nintendo returns with our big announcement of the winner on March 28th. So, with that, I already name dropped him twice. I'm about to do it once more. Kevin, take us home with the final word.
Put in Apex Legends and Smash, you cowards. I'm definitely editing that out.